Hi, friends. A question I get a lot is what exactly is a fractional CFO? Is it an accountant? Is it a strategist? Is it a consultant? What do they do? I'm going to try to answer that through an example of a startup. Now, CFOs tend to look to the future, and that is a lot of what I do at Weir Consulting. I say what financially is going to happen in the future. Accountants and bookkeepers have incredibly important jobs of making sure everything that happened in the past is recorded well, documented, even make sure you pay the taxes you need to pay, make sure everyone stays out of jail. Really important work. But what I'm going to try to do here is show you how we can look forward and make adjustments based on looking forward, so that you can achieve the goals that your business has, which is the primary function of a CFO. While I'm using a startup as an example, this can actually occur with any organization or division at any moment that they're in. So let's go ahead and take a look. So this startup needs to have a goal for where it's going to go. And let's say your goal is that 5 years from now, you have 3 million in revenue. All right, so that goal is written down. Now let's think, if you need 3 million 5 years from now, what do you need 1 year from now? Now, given that this is a startup, you literally have zero revenue right now. And so I wouldn't be too aggressive with the first year. I wouldn't say you need to get to 2 million, but let's do something more modest. Let's say 500,000. So a year from now, you want to have 500,000 in revenue. Now that's an annual number, and so you need to get to a monthly number in order to monitor it more effectively. So let's go ahead and take 500,000 and divide it by 12, and we have 41,667. And that is the goal for monthly revenue 1 year from today. It doesn't have to be more than that, and it can be even lower than that, but that's the goal we're going to operate from. So what I'm going to do is click over to this revenue tracking sheet. And you can see in the revenue tracking sheet, we have year one revenue goals and year one results. Now, we're going to assume that right now we are at month 0, so there are no results. And we know that in December we need 41,667. I'm going to say 42,000 because I like round numbers in these things. So we need 42,000. Now let's think with our brains and our judgments more than any equation, what we think is going to happen, that needs to happen over the next 11 months to get to 42,000. Now this is a startup with no revenue, and for the sake of argument, I'm going to say there's no real path to revenue for the next 3 months. So I'll put 0, 0, 0 for the next 3 months. Well, then we need to start getting some revenue, and so I'll say, in April, let's have the goal of 15,000. In May, let's have another goal of 15,000. June, 25,000, July, 25,000, August, let's do 30,000, 35,000, and then maybe 40 and 40 again before we get to 42,000. So as you can see, these are numbers that you can really just kind of, I wouldn't say make up, but just kind of get good judgment. This is about the future and estimating the future. This is not something you can easily figure out with an equation. And so I think this is a pretty fair way to do it. And then let's go ahead and put together a chart. So we go to insert, we go to chart. And then in the setup, we want the chart type to be a line chart. And we need to switch the rows and columns. Okay, there we go. And then we'll get rid of these grid lines because I don't like the way they look. And then we'll change this to a black dashed line. And a black dashed line seems to be the pretty universal signal that this is a forecast. We'll also put in the chart title, year one revenue goals versus actuals. Great, and we'll center that. Okay, so now you've done a good thing. You've sort of said, this is what I need to get done in the next few months. You know that you don't need any revenue for the first 3 months, but then you really do need revenue by April, and so you can start taking action to get you there. It's 6 months later, and we're reviewing your forecast, your revenue goals, with what actually happens. So let's dig in here. Wow, it looks like you actually got some revenue, $10,000 in March. You must have been doing a really good job, and somebody accelerated their order. That's great. It looks like April you hit your goal, and May you hit your goal, but June you did not hit your goal. Okay. So this feels good. This is good progress. But what happened in June? Maybe you realized your product is more seasonal than you thought. In the summer months, it's not as high a demand. Maybe you had one customer who you were dependent on, and they either went out of business or they didn't like the product anymore. And maybe you just kind of hit a streak of bad luck, right? You never quite know what's going on with these things. But let's look at it visually. I mean, this looks okay. Obviously, this last month is troubling because you're supposed to be going up and it's going down, but it looks okay. We'll stay on this track. You need to keep working hard, obviously, and we'll see what happens by December. All right. So it's December. So it's 12 months since we originally set your forecast. Let's see what happened. Well, it seems like you were below forecast for a lot of the year, but you were catching up and things are going okay. And it seems like you're at 40,000 instead of 42,000. Now, 40,000 is really close to 42,000. You basically hit your goal and you're doing really well. This just shows a lot of good work. And while it's nowhere near 5 million a year, it is showing that you did the work in year one to get to the 5th year. So that is how you make a revenue forecast. The next steps are to do the same thing with your costs and then subtract the revenue from the cost and look at your profitability. From there, you can really monitor how things are going and catch if things are not going according to expectations much earlier than you might be able to otherwise. It also helps you form the future. And so instead of the market being a object that acts on you and that makes you change things, you can actually act on the market and say, well, I want to go here. Here's the path I'm going to take there. Please contact me with any questions, or if you'd like to have the sheet, you should feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn or on email or check out my website. Thanks so much. Bye.